Hi, everyone. This is Daniel Giamario on the monthly blogcast, video blog, however you want to say that. And I happen to be joined here today by Ville, who is going to be sharing with me about our very special topic here today, which is on the solar standstill. And when I was in Finland last summer, he and I visited this very unique place that we both had speculated must exist somewhere, considering the certain latitudes that are in Finland. And it's the thing that's interesting to me about this is that since 1984, and then particularly in 1987, I became aware of this phenomena in Scotland, which was associated with the lunar standstill, where the moon would walk on the land, which was a feature of latitude. You have to be at the right latitude for that to happen. In the last 2 or 3 years since we've been in a lunar standstill season, I've been putting a huge amount of attention on that. And what to me is what I want to share here is that uh, even though I had been an astrologer for maybe 17 years, by the time I became aware of the lunar standstill, I had not known anything about what are called out of bounds moons, right? And actually, that's fairly well known in the general astrological community. I didn't know about it, but I actually first experienced it directly on the land. And that is a very major feature of our school, which is the actual land and sky connection. So I've been kind of obsessed with lunar standstills, which is during the standstill season for the moon, which is only about every 18 to 19 years. And to be at a certain latitude for the moon will just walk along the surface of the land, very close to the surface of the land. Well, I've always imagined, and because of my relationship with Ville, um, we speculated, we both have similar interests, that there must be at a certain latitude something associated with the same phenomena with the sun, where the sun on a very low arc would be just along the surface of the land. And so we had an opportunity to go to a place in Finland that actually has been researched for this very reason, you know. So we wanted to be able to share that with you and to then speculate on, the larger significance of it, the importance of it, and then to speculate on, what might it have been for, and actually how it could be of value to ceremonial approach to land and sky now from an astronomical and astrological perspective. So that's the purpose of our discussion here today. So let me turn it over to you, Ville, and share your experience when we got together and begin our investigation of this really remarkable site in Finland.
Thank you, Daniel, and hello to everybody from Finland. So, I actually have a few slides that I might share here. Okay. Do you see them, Daniel?
Yes, it's working nice.
Good. So, first of all, I thought we should probably place ourselves on the map. So, here's the map of Europe, and here you can see that Finland is pretty north here. Actually, Finland is exactly between the 60th and 70th degrees of northern latitude. So the Arctic Circle is currently like 66.5 about. So it goes around here. So about 1/3 of Finland is above the Arctic Circle, and Helsinki, near to where I live here, is at the 60th degree of latitude. And here we can see Scotland, and here are the Outer Hebrides, where Callanish is located in, and as you can see, they are just south from the southern point of Finland. So the lunar standstill phenomenon that you can see there, the moon walking on the land, it's not possible to see it in Finland because we are too north.
Mm-hmm.
But to see the sun walk on the land in winter solstice time, you would need to be a bit south of the Arctic Circle, like probably like 1 degree or a bit more than 1 degree.
Oh, excuse me, one sec. Are you not referring to the summer solstice?
No. Actually, if we think about the lunar standstill and the moon walking on the land, then
That's the southern extreme.
yeah, it's like the moon comes just above the horizon and skims the horizon and then goes down again, and that's what happens during the winter solstice here.
Where is the? I have to be honest. I didn't quite understand that. What about what's happening? Where would the southern? What would happen to the summer, so-called June solstice, at that latitude?
Yeah, so the sun would be like towards the midnight. Sun would be like coming down towards the horizon, and it would just about touch the horizon and then start going
Well,
back.
that would be the one that would walk along the horizon.
Well, actually, I think both of them would, but to see the sun walk the horizon on midnight, you would need to be north from the Arctic Circle.
So that makes sense in the article that we had looked at and that you had shared, that at the site we're going to be talking about, that there are locations, there's certain stones there that are both for winter and summer solstice.
Yes.
Yeah, I'll hear you. Yeah, because it's going to be pretty much very similar.
Yeah. So next slide I have is a more closer map of Finland, where you can also see the Arctic Circle. It's the dotted line here, and the place we are talking about is located about here, and I have another slide where it's marked. So here, this dot here is where the so-called giant church is located, and this is an area in Finland where we have those kinds of constructions from the Neolithic period, and this one we visited is by far the largest of those and probably most complicated. And then I have marked also this line here, which is about the place where the Arctic Circle has been in the start of the Holocene, like about 10,000 years ago. When if we think about the Milankovitch cycle, where the axial tilt of the Earth differs a bit in a cycle that is about 41,000 years. That axial tilt has been at its most extreme about 10,000 or a bit less than 10,000 years ago. And so during the time when these structures have been built, the border of the Arctic Circle has been closer to this line than the current one.
Mm-hmm.
So they have been really close to the Arctic Circle. So this is one detail that I haven't seen anywhere discussed in the context of these structures. But it kind of makes the assumption that it would be about this sun walking the horizon. It would make it even more plausible, I think.
Yeah, I agree. And when we went to visit it, oh, go ahead, sorry.
Oh, you can say what.
I say when we went to visit it, what I've learned was that at the time they suggest that this was built maybe 2000, 2500 BCE, that this area of Finland was actually either little islands or was on the coast, which is very important to know, because when we were there, there's of course all kinds of trees that were blocking the horizon, which would not have been the case before. And I've learned that that is primarily because of the fact that, you know, since the end of the Ice Age, the land has risen.
Yeah, exactly. It's risen a lot. Like the whole of Finland was under ice during the Ice Age, and when the ice melted, the ground has started to bounce back up, and it's still bouncing back. So it's quite a fast process, actually. If you live near the sea line, you can observe it within a few decades that the sea line is receding.
Wow.
So it's a pretty dramatic phenomenon, I would say. And concerning these structures, just like you said, currently this place is like in the middle of the forest, like about 20 miles from the shoreline. But when it was built, it has probably been an island, and it probably has had a clear view of the horizon towards the south, like it be just the sea. So it would be skimming the sea. The sun would be skimming the sea.
When I see a map like this, I'm always curious to see whether there might exist, like say on the western coast of Norway, or over on the eastern coast of Russia, at the same the land, there's waters over there on the far right, whether there might exist similar kinds of known or unknown structures there.
Yeah, that's an interesting question.
I imagine it would be easier to be able to explore the ones over in Norway, but is it not true? Is that the region of Russia that used to be part of Greater Finland, or is it further north?
Well, that's a bit complicated because when Finland was formed in 1917, the border was going like so that about half of this Lake Ladoga here was part of Finland, and then here in the north there was a significant part more that were ceded to the Soviet Union after the Second World War. But the whole area of Russia here that you see on this map has been culturally part of the greater Finnish people's culture for ages. So most people living on the Russian side still have Finnish ancestry or Karelian ancestry, which is almost the same as Finnish.
That's kind of what I was referring to, not whether it was within the boundaries of a quote nation state, but kind of the same cultural framework.
Yeah. And here in the far north, then this is the Sami area. So that's related to Finnish, but not as close as those aliens, for example. So I was looking for a picture of this place and structure, and it's really difficult to find a good picture, because when you're standing into structure, you can't really get much of anything by taking a photo of it. And this picture that's directly from above is the best one I found. So here you can see it's in the middle of a forest, and the size of this structure is the width here is about 62 meters, which I think it's quite near to 200 feet. And then the other side is like 36 meters. So it's a pretty sizable structure. And there are these openings here that have been investigated, researched by this Finnish archaeo-astronomer, or I think there are probably two of them, but specifically this one archaeo-astronomer whose name is Marianna Ridderstad has made a doctoral thesis out of this structure and the similar other structures that are in that area marked on the map before. And so you can see this is a very old structure, probably around at least 4,000 and 5,000 years. And there has been a lot of speculation on the function of it, like if it was a dwelling of some sort or a place for seal hunters to store their seal meat, or some other things, but these two archaeo-astronomers have pretty well shown that this structure has very significant astronomical linings. So these openings are towards significant happenings like solstices and things like that. So nowadays it's been kind of accepted that this actually is some kind of an old ancient observatory or a place, possibly a ceremonial place.
Mm-hmm.
That's concerned about this astronomical phenomena.
How long is this? I know the local name for it is the Giants Church. Do you have any knowledge about how long that's been called that, or what the why it's called that?
Yeah, well, this structure and also the other similar structures, they all are called giants churches, and that is a very ancient tradition, like as far back in time as it's possible to go. So so clearly people have for a long time thought that these were built by giants, which is an interesting thing to ponder about in itself. There are many traditions about giants here in Finland, and some other kinds of structures also that carry the names connected to giants.
So we did have an opportunity to go there, and it was quite interesting to be able to see that it was real, and it was a real place, and it was right at that latitude, and you couldn't really see the ocean or the horizon, but knowing that it had been uplifted and was not on the coast or on an island off the coast was really helpful in understanding it. We went there at a time period where a lot of mosquitoes, so we had to actually keep moving. And the forest was filled with berries. It was really a worthwhile thing to do. And there's obviously more research and more investigation of this. We've included, well, go ahead, continue with your sharing.
Yeah, so I took here the introduction of the article that's written by those two archaeo-astronomers I was talking about. This is the only article I have been able to find they have published in English. Here's the introduction part of it. So the info here is more or less the same we already talked about. And in this article, they also have like a list of all these 23 places they researched and what kind of orientations they have found. So it's a pretty interesting article.
It is. It was very useful, and there's a lot of information in the whole article. We will put as a resource a link to the article itself. But one thing that comes to mind when in reading it, the fact that there are 40 to 50 of them, right, and that they're stretched out in what, about a degree and a half of latitude. So that what comes to mind for me is that they might have had to keep building new ones as there's a shift, with the movement of the ecliptic.
Yeah, exactly. I have also been thinking about that possibility. Yeah. So within this article, there's one very interesting section that I also took a clip of here. So they actually make the connection to this moonwalking the land at Callanish in this article. So they have really considered this possibility, which is exciting to see.
And it would make sense that at that particular latitude, and whether it's Finland, Sweden, Norway, at those latitudes, how much importance the solar cycle would have been, including so many ancient mythic stories you've shared with me about when you divide up, when you're in an area that's divided up, the duality, the polarity, half, which is all based upon solar, so the fact that they would have that relationship with the sun based upon it being on the low horizon and walking on the land, it would make a lot of sense that would be important for them to ceremonialize and to have a certain amount of awe and reverence for.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Go ahead, sorry.
Yeah, this brings us to a very interesting topic of investigating the possible what would be the correct expression, possible sun cults or ancient traditions around the sun in Finland and the whole northern area here, because the thing with the current mainstream history is that they don't really want to see anything really ancient here other than hunting and gathering. So I'm actually, it's hard to describe how exciting it is to see a quote like this in an academical paper, because just 20 years ago it would have been impossible to argue for this kind of archaeo-astronomical thing about these structures, like it would have been dismissed completely immediately. So here in Finland it's kind of hard to describe the mentality about our history, because the academic research is so invested in this narrative that there was nothing significant here before the Swedish and English came here during the Crusades. The turning point was about the 1200s, and then the history kind of starts. But there are so many things to find if you want to go down a rabbit hole about the prehistory of this area that doesn't match at all with the mainstream view of things. So my own perspective is that there's probably very much to find out, which is like very interesting stuff to anybody, of course, especially for us here. And it's really hard to understand the mentality where all these kinds of things have been blocked away, like you're not allowed to find them, you're not allowed to research them, you're not allowed to talk about them if you're within the academia. So it's very slowly changing, but there is it's very peculiar situation here.
Well, there's an interesting parallel to what happened in the United States. And the breakthrough actually was earlier. It was 1987. And the actual year that I saw the lunar standstill at Callanish in 1987 at the June solstice, that was actually the breakthrough, that actually these ancient structures, 5,000-6,000 years old there, we're really tracking that. A few months later, I happened to find myself in southern Colorado, and that it's exactly that year that the location called Chimney Rock in southern Colorado, they released the data. They did radiocarbon dating on certain kivas that were looking toward a structure that the moon would pass through every 18 to 19 years. And they were able to actually finally admit, oh my God, they were not willing to admit this until that time period, that the simple, savage hunter-gatherers of the Native Americans could not possibly have understood that cycle of the moon. And that was actually the breakthrough. You know, it finally opened the gates, and then more and more things have been found in ancient America regarding this. But I mean, good grief, the air. I mean, I've always speculated actually that the archaeo-astronomers that had that attitude, I'm speaking of the moon now, actually maybe didn't even understand how the cycle operated, particularly in relationship to the land, you know. And so that it took this archaeoastronomer named Kim Malville to actually open the floodgates. He did the radiocarbon dating and said, oh yeah, they were oriented toward the northern extreme, because at that latitude, the moon doesn't walk on the land, but you can see it go through a physical structure at that latitude. You know, so here we're talking about, it came at like maybe, well, only, as you say, only about the last 20 years. But this kind of thing is now beginning to open up, even with the mound structures in Ohio. Where finally in the last 20 years, some of the Native American elders are starting to be willing to talk about it, because they finally are reaching, you know, finally connecting with some you know, academia individuals that are interested in really wanting to know, you know, rather than being fixated on their narrow view, you know. So these things are opening up now, and I think you mentioned that this team of archaeoastronomers have actually put out a book just recently, you know, going more deeply into it. Unfortunately, I'm not in English, but not unfortunately for you, but but it'll be interesting to see what you discover when you get the book.
Yes, I just became aware of it and ordered it. Haven't yet received it. So looking forward to reading that. Yeah.
We could also, you know, speculate now on what would have been the ancient use of this. I mean, we can't entirely know this, obviously, because our minds don't work the way that the Neolithic people, the way they would have seen the world and understood the world. Or then at the same time, how can we use it now? You know, how can we tune into it now? And all I can personally share about it is, after having been to Callanish, the lunar standstill site, you know, about 20 different stone circles, all oriented toward locations on the land, whether it's stones or the shape of a mountain or the different horizontal features, that my sense of it, and the old stories tend to back this up, that it would be not only a place for ceremony, you know, like the way we would think of that today. Well, let's go there for, you know, during the sun walking on the land or the moon walking on the land and do ceremony, you know, mainly from a, you know, an astronomical perspective. But the sense I get, having been there so many times, that was a gathering place. So that on these very special time periods, and maybe in Finland, it would have been every year. While with the moon, it would be every 18 to 19 years. And I always thought that the way it would have worked there in northern Scotland, because it's not just Callanish, there are other areas of northern Scotland that have similar stone structures, different styles that place the moon on the altar. And you can all even imagine placing the sun on the altar, during the low pass. And the sense I always had of it is it would be the gathering of the clans. We now know that the Neolithic people in a number of places in the world were able to navigate the oceans. That's another thing which only recently they've been able to accept the fact, that people could navigate the ocean before the European, European navigators, and so that what would happen between 18 and 19 years, I'm talking about the moon now, is that clans, tribes, groups would gather every 18 or 19 years at these sites. And you can imagine everything that would happen there. I mean, it would not just be ceremony with the alignments, but it would also be, a trade fair, sharing music. Even in the old days with matrilineal traditions, it was actually based upon clan law that you would not marry someone from your own tribe. So therefore it became essential for the woman of a particular tribe to find a guy from a different tribe and then bring her into her own clan. And so I can imagine these gatherings would be a time for that too, matchmaking, Now, all these things happening during these ceremonial times. And there may even be remnants of this kind of thing if you go back into the old Finland stories, if we could ever find what they were, I did notice that in that article that there were some indications of some old stories. But I guess that's part of your research. You're trying to discover this, maybe even in the sagas, or in the not the sagas, but
I have actually been trying to investigate it from a bit different perspective. I can bring up the map here again. So, so if we look at many well-known stories about the beginnings from like India, from Iran, the Persian traditions, from Greece, and many other places, they all talk about this foundational place of their wisdom, which is in the north. And for example, in the Vedic tradition, they talk about the Vedic wisdom coming from the North Pole. And when we look at the map, we can easily see that it's probably impossible that people would have lived in the North Pole. So, but if we consider that the whole of the Arctic Circle actually kind of embodies the idea of what the North Pole is about, like this phenomenon of the midnight sun and then the sun not rising at all during the winter. then we can start to speculate about these first places having been within the Arctic Circle. And now, if I don't have a map of the whole Arctic Circle here, but you can Google it up, and you can see that the Arctic Circle goes in the Western Hemisphere. It includes like the northern part of Alaska, and then some northern parts of Canada, and most of Greenland, and then this northern European part, and then the northern parts of Siberia in Russia. And if we consider these locations, there's only one location within the Arctic Circle that you could seriously consider having a real civilization within it in ancient days, and it's this Finnish part of the Arctic Circle. So most of the Arctic Circle landmass is actually quite mountainous, but the Finnish Lapland here, this part of Finland above the Arctic Circle, is actually mostly quite low, and it's even today in the summer it's really lush, like you saw last summer.
Mm-hmm.
And it's from this point of view, you could start to ponder the possibility of there having been like a real civilization, not just hunting and gathering. Also, the Finnish nature is such that if there was something going on thousands of years ago, the nature would have really effectively hidden it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So, because the Finnish nature produces a lot of biomass every year, so those things would be under current surface, and there has not been much of any archaeological digging in the Finnish Arctic Circle, or I would think.
And there's less amount of big stones there too.
Yeah.
When Lynn and I were there, I have to say that I think we were there in July. We just had this marvelous experience up there north of the Arctic Circle. It really felt like being in my own and Lynn's internal view. Wow, we're in the Garden of Eden. It was just such a paradise realm, with the air and the water and the green and the land. It was tremendously special. And plus the factor that you've shared with me before, that there were time periods not that far back when it was warmer up there also.
Yes, actually, it kind of includes the time period of those giant churches. Mm-hmm. They're towards the end of the so-called Holocene climatic optimum, when we know from dendrochronology, for example, that the climate in the northern part of Finland was significantly warmer, like almost immediately from the end of the ice age to about 4,000 years ago. Mm-hmm. It was significantly warmer, and they are finding these old tree trunks from the lakes in areas that are currently way above the forest line, and they have this continuous timetable of dendrochronology back to at least 6 to 8,000 years. And also the northern Finland is the optimal place for dendrochronological measurements, because the circumstances for tree growth are very like stable year to year. So basically the temperature is the only thing that or if I say it otherwise, what you see from the yearly tree rings, you will basically see the temperature there, because the other affecting factors are abundant, let's say. So
I'm thinking of all the stories that in different cultures of what I think has been called in English hyperborea, as far as
exactly.
the paradise realm in the north. So many different stories about that, and it's beyond the scope of our conversation today, but you've been able to do presentations on it before about the different ways that you can retell well-known Greek stories and other cultural stories that they seem to be a later day imposition on a different landscape as to what it was from previous. The same story transported to a different land.
Yeah.
And that's I know one of the things we talk about all the time. Okay, and so therefore, why use these now, or why be interested in this now? Well, in our school, it's a school of knowledge, but also experience. And as seed people, we gather together the knowledge from the past, particularly in the past when human beings were more in touch with their environment and with the connection between the land and sky. And by keeping those awarenesses and knowledge alive, by going to these places, which is a major feature of our school, then what happens is that you reanimate the capacity within, pardon me, an organic human being to still do that, because our senses are full sensory apparatus. Everything we are able to experience in our minds and our senses is still there. So there's a way of connecting to these places to reanimate our ability to have that magical connection between the land and the sky. And then you have absolutely, you're open to seeing what other kinds of transmissions, other insights come through as we are dreaming the vision forward. And I don't want to lose these ways. I want to revision them with new stories and new ways of working with them. And I think you share that same vision.
Yeah, for sure. Yes.
Well, Ville is also one of our foundationally certified totems and shamanic astrologers. He and one of our other practitioners, Iona, are doing work in Finland, actually translating a lot of material, or some material anyway, into Finnish. I think you have your own little group you've got going there with that, and I'm really looking forward to being there again with you this next summer. Is there anything additional you might want to share before we complete our sharing here today?
Well, there would be a lot to share, but I don't think I think it needs to wait for another opportunity.
One thing is that for sure, if anyone who's listening is really inspired and interested in this ancient, interesting, and frequently unknown backstory history of Finland in the far north, can they contact you?
Oh, sure. Yes.
So we'll include your contact information. You can also find contact information for Ville on our website. He's listed there among our certified astrologers. And this has been a tremendous pleasure sharing this with you. And I'll see you again soon.
Thank you, Daniel. My pleasure also.
Mm-hmm. Uh-oh, what do I do?
Are you looking to stop the recording?
Yeah, oh, there it is. There it is. Pause, stop recording. Yeah.